The apartment stood quietly on Manhattan's Upper West Side, tucked inside a pre-war building with hardwood floors that creaked with age and crown molding that still held the elegance of another era. I had bought it in 1987, using the life insurance money left behind by my husband Robert, who died of pancreatic cancer at just 42. I was only 36 then, with 3 children under the age of 12 and a part-time job at a dental office that barely covered groceries. That apartment wasn't luxury. It was survival. Every mortgage payment was a battle I won. Every repair, every coat of paint, every winter night spent rationing heat to save on bills, it all came from my hands. I sold my wedding ring when the furnace broke. I walked to work through snow to save on bus fare. I wore the same winter coat for 8 years straight. My children never knew. They just grew up in a home that felt stable, safe, and warm. Michael, the oldest, was now 35 and worked in finance. He made 6 figures, drove a BMW, and called me only on Christmas and my birthday. The calls were polite, timed, and just long enough to clear his conscience. His wife Sandra, a yoga instructor with a bony smile and eyes that never met mine, referred to me as Michael's mother, like I was a leftover responsibility. Elena, 33, lived in Connecticut with her husband and my only grandchild, Tommy. She was always busy, always calculating. She invited me to things only when it made her look good, when she needed a babysitter or wanted to seem like a devoted daughter in public. Then there was David, my youngest, the one who still called me Mama when he needed something. He was 28, jobless again, and had just announced that he was marrying a woman he'd known for 7 months. Rebecca. Pretty, polished, and hungry for a fairy tale. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was watching the news, sipping my tea. "Mama," David began, his tone already dressed in charm. "I have the most amazing news." I muted the TV. "Rebecca and I are getting married. New Year's Eve. And we found the perfect venue. In the Hamptons." Before I could process the cost of such a sentence, he continued. "But wait, that's not even the best part. We found this incredible brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. 3 bedrooms. It's perfect for starting a family. But we need help with a down payment. It's $450,000. I know your apartment is worth way more than that. You could sell it, get something smaller in Queens or the Bronx, and help us out with the difference. It'd be like an early inheritance. The best wedding gift ever." I didn't speak right away. Through the window, I stared at the city lights, the same view I had watched for 37 years. The same one I saw when Robert died. The same one that watched over my children during fevers, fights, and quiet nights. "David," I said slowly, "this apartment is my home. Your father and I raised you here. I built our lives here." He didn't flinch. "But Mama, you don't even need that much space. What are you doing with 3 bedrooms? Think about it. You'd be helping us start our lives. Isn't that what parents do?" There was something sharp in his voice. Something that stung more than his words. "David," I said, "I raised 3 children alone after your father died. I worked 3 jobs some weeks just to make sure you had a roof over your heads and food in your stomachs." He cut me off. "That was your choice. We didn't ask to be born. That's what parents do." The audacity of it made the room feel cold. I told him I needed time to think. He replied, "There's nothing to think about. Family helps family. I already told Rebecca you'd be excited. She's planning where to put all our furniture." He ended the call. And I sat there. Tea cold, heart colder. The next morning Elena called. There were no greetings, no warmth. "David told me about your conversation. I think you're making a mistake." "Good morning to you too, Elena," I said, but she went on without acknowledging it. "Look, I know the apartment has sentimental value, but David's right. You don't need all that space. You're young. Starting out. It would be the perfect gift." I stared at the phone, trying to understand how my home, my security, had turned into a gift suggestion. "The perfect gift," I repeated slowly, "would be my life's work?" "Your security, Mom," she said as if correcting me. "You're 58, not 88. You can work another decade. But David might not get another opportunity like this. Do you really want to be the reason your son can't have the life he deserves? I looked out the bedroom window at the courtyard where I used to watch them play. And what about the life I deserve? Yes. Her voice went quiet. You've had your life. You raised us. You have your memories. Now it's time to think about the next generation. And Michael? Yes. Michael agrees. We talked this morning. The pressure had become coordinated, cold, calculated. Mom, we're not asking you to live in a cardboard box. You could get a nice one-bedroom, maybe even closer to me. You could help with Tommy more. Course. Even in taking my home, they'd found a way to keep using me. I'm not selling the apartment, I said. Silence. Then like a knife. Fine. But don't expect us to feel sorry for you when you're sitting alone in that big empty apartment wondering why your children don't visit. She hung up before I could reply. The next few weeks felt like drowning in slow gas. Every day brought a new tactic, a new kind of pressure. David came to my door 3 times in 1 week. The first time he brought flowers, cheap ones from the corner bodega. He sat on my couch like he had a right to be there. The same couch where I once read him bedtime stories. Mama, I know this is a big ask, he said gently. But we're not just doing this for us. We're thinking about the future. The grandchildren. Don't you want them to grow up in a beautiful home? I pulled my hand away. I want them to grow up with a father who can provide for them without begging. His face changed then. Just a flicker. Something darker beneath his charm. That's not fair. You know how hard it is out there. It's not like when you bought this place, for nothing. I stood slowly, fire rising in my chest. I bought this apartment with your father's death money. And paid for it with 20 years of my life. Nothing. Get out. He left the flowers on the table. I threw them in the trash before the door even shut. The second time he brought Rebecca. She perched on the armchair like a polished ornament, her ring catching the light with every move. Mrs. Thornfield, she began, sweet as syrup. I hope you don't think I'm just here for David's inheritance. Come from money myself. My father owns 3 restaurants. But her voice said otherwise. David and I want to build something together, she added. How romantic, I said. And you need my home to do it. David jumped in. Rebecca's family already helped with the wedding. I didn't want to ask for more. But you're my mother. This is what families do. Rebecca leaned in. We promise we'll take good care of the money. And you'll always be welcome in our home. We're planning a beautiful guest room. Just for you. Guest room. In a house bought with my sacrifice. No, I said. Her smile twitched. Just a bit. Then she recovered. Of course. Maybe you just need time to think about what's best for everyone. They left a folder of apartment listings. 1 bedrooms in Queens and the Bronx circled in red ink, like they'd already decided my future. The third time David came alone. No flowers. No girlfriend. Just entitlement. He walked straight in like he owned the place. This is ridiculous. You're being unreasonable. Unreasonable. Yes. For wanting to keep my own home. He exploded. You're sitting in this huge apartment all alone while Rebecca and I are trying to build a life. What do you even do all day? Watch TV. Cook for one. I live here, David. This is my life. What life? You don't date. You barely have friends. You see us once a month. If you helped us, your money would mean something. It would create something beautiful. I looked at him. My baby, the one I held through every storm of his youth, and saw a stranger. Get out of my home, I said quietly. Fine, he snapped. But don't come crying to us when you're old and alone. We're offering you a chance to be part of our happiness. And you're throwing it away, for what? Pride. For self-respect, I said. Something you wouldn't understand. He slammed the door behind him. My china cabinet rattled. And that was when Michael made his move. Michael didn't bother with visits or phone calls. He sent an email. Cold. Formal. Professional. The subject line read, Family financial planning discussion. It was filled with legal language that made my stomach tighten. He wrote that Elena and David had briefed him on the situation regarding my current living arrangements and David's upcoming marriage. As the sibling with the most financial experience, he had taken it upon himself to present an objective analysis. According to him, my apartment was an inefficient allocation of capital. He estimated it could sell for around $1.4 million. A one-bedroom in a safe neighborhood would cost about $600,000, leaving roughly $800,000 to be distributed among the children as early inheritance. He even consulted with his financial advisor, who had identified several investment opportunities to provide me steady income. He wrote that I wouldn't be sacrificing my security. I'd be optimizing it. And in the end, of course, family comes first. The email ended with, "Please let us know your decision by the end of the week so we can proceed with the necessary paperwork. Best regards, Michael." Best regards. From my firstborn. I read that email 3 times. Each time my hands grew steadier. My heart grew harder. I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out a small leather journal I'd kept hidden for years. Inside it were decades of sacrifices. Every dollar spent, every emergency handled, every time they needed something and I gave it. Michael's MBA. $85. 000. Elena's wedding. $35. 000. David's endless string of emergencies. $43. 000. Rent, tuition, credit cards, health bills. Together, it totaled nearly $300,000. That was over a third of what my apartment was worth. I closed the journal, made myself a cup of tea, then sat down at my computer. Michael, thank you for your financial analysis. I have some numbers of my own that might interest you. Megan Thornfield. I hit send. I didn't feel anger. I felt something harder, clearer. I realized they thought I was weak because I never fought back. But they'd forgotten who held the real power. I owned the only thing they were truly after. A week later, an envelope arrived. Hand-delivered by Elena. She smiled like someone trying to hide a shark bite. "Tommy's turning 7, she said. Saturday at 2 o'clock. He specifically asked for Grandma Megan to be there. The invitation was printed on heavy cardstock with gold-foiled letters. At your house? Yes. Yes, she said. Michael and Sandra will be driving in, David and Rebecca will be there. It'll be nice. Everyone together. I could hear the coordination in her voice. Plan. A united front. An ambush masked as a celebration. Tommy really wants you there, she added. He's been asking about you. Has he? I asked. Or have you been asking him to ask about me? She blinked. You're being paranoid. Can't we put all this apartment nonsense aside for one day and celebrate my son's birthday? Apartment nonsense, I repeated. As if my entire life's work was now a footnote. Of course, I said. I wouldn't miss it. That Saturday I didn't shop for toys. I had already bought Tommy a boxed set of the Chronicles of Narnia, the same books I once read to his father. Instead, I went to an electronics store and bought a small digital recorder. Then to an office supply shop for a leather portfolio and manila folders. I gathered every financial document I had. Loan records, IOUs, cancelled checks, bank statements. And I made one more stop. Patterson, Williams and Associates, the receptionist answered. I'd like to schedule a consultation with an estate attorney. Subject. Revising my will. Elena's house was exactly what I expected. A perfect lawn, luxury SUVs in the driveway, and a front door I had helped finance without acknowledgement. I parked on the street, took a breath and walked to the backyard. Tommy ran to me, beaming. Grandma Megan, you came. I knelt down and hugged him tight. His small voice whispered, Mom said you might not come because you're mad at everyone. I smiled sadly. Well, I'm here now. And I brought you something special. He tore open the paper and gasped. Books. The whole set. Elena appeared behind him too quickly. That's thoughtful, Mom. But Tommy already has those on his iPad. Books are different, I said. You can hold them. They don't disappear when the battery dies. Michael and Sandra were near the pool, surrounded by other polished parents. They barely looked at me. David and Rebecca were at a patio table, watching me with practiced smiles. Rebecca waved. Megan, come sit with us. I walked over calmly. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what the crazy old woman would do. How's the wedding planning? I asked as I sat. Rebecca lit up. Oh, it's amazing. The venue has ocean views. We're using the same caterer from Miranda Whitfield's daughter's wedding. Sounds expensive, I said. David laughed nervously. Well, you only get married once, right? Of course, I said, opening my purse. I pulled out the leather portfolio and spread the documents across the table. I've been thinking a lot about family helping family. David's eyes lit up. Rebecca squeezed his arm. Hope bloomed. I've gone through my records, I said, pointing to highlighted numbers. Your tuition, David. A Cancun trip. Car loan. Rent. Health bills. Groceries. Totals up to $89,000. David turned pale. Rebecca blinked like she was seeing a foreign language. I turned to Michael, who had just joined us. Your MBA, the ring money, the apartment loan, the wedding fund. Want me to keep going? He stiffened. This is inappropriate, Mother. It's a child's birthday party. No, I said, standing. You know what's inappropriate? That my children think they're entitled to my home, that they've harassed and guilt me for weeks, that they've decided the only value I have left is in what I can give them. The backyard went silent. Children stopped playing. Elena ran over, hissing. Not here. Let's go inside and talk privately. Privately? I laughed. Like how you all planned this behind my back. Like how you decided I don't deserve to keep my home. Sandra finally spoke. You're being dramatic. Michael said you were unstable. I looked around. And then, without a word, I picked up Tommy's birthday cake, 7 candles in all, and smashed it directly into my face. The backyard froze. Frosting dripped from my cheeks as silence blanketed the entire party. 30 adults, a dozen children, all staring at me like I'd lost my mind. I could feel every eye on me, every shocked gasp, every whisper, every hand subtly reaching for a phone. I didn't wipe my face. Not yet. There, I said calmly, my voice cutting through the quiet like glass. Now you can tell everyone how crazy old Megan ruined the birthday party. How she humiliated herself and made a scene. Make sure to include the part where you pressured your mother to give up her home. Tommy's face crumpled. Not in a tantrum, but in a child's confusion, scared of adults who no longer looked safe. He began to cry, quiet and honest. Elena scooped him into her arms, her face a mixture of fury and horror. Are you satisfied? She hissed. You've traumatized my son. You've embarrassed us in front of everyone. Ask me that again in 6 months, I replied coldly, wiping frosting from my eyes at last. See if you still think I'm the one who traumatized him. I calmly gathered the papers back into my portfolio, each movement slow and deliberate. The recorder in my purse was still running, catching every word, every sob, every whispered insult from the polished crowd. David stood frozen, blinking like a child caught lying. Rebecca had stepped back, her mask of charm cracked beyond repair. You're insane, she spat, her voice trembling. David, your mother is completely unhinged. I can't. You can't what? I asked, looking her dead in the eye. Can't marry into a family that holds you accountable? Can't handle the truth behind your future lifestyle? Michael stepped forward, face flushed. That's enough. Whatever point you were trying to make, you made it. Now go clean yourself up and leave before you ruin anything else. Oh, Michael, I said, slinging my purse over my shoulder. You still don't get it. This isn't me ruining things. This is me beginning. And with that, I walked straight through the stunned crowd, frosting in my hair and dignity in my bones. Behind me, I heard Elena's frantic voice trying to reassure the guests, Sandra snapping at someone in hushed tones, David mumbling half-formed explanations. The picture-perfect party was in ruins. And I had never felt more certain in my life. The wind hit my face as I rolled down the car windows on my drive home, letting the Connecticut breeze carry away the last traces of cake and the woman who once sacrificed everything to keep her children from falling apart. By the time I reached Manhattan, I wasn't her anymore. Monday morning, I sat across from James Patterson, estate attorney. He was younger than expected, early 40s maybe, but his expensive suit and sharp eyes told me he was the right kind of ruthless. He flipped through the documents I'd brought without saying a word. Then he looked up. "This is a thorough financial history. May I ask what brought you here?" "My children want me to sell my home and give them the proceeds. When I refused, they began pressuring me." I pressed play on the recorder. He sat in silence, listening to David's demands, Elena's guilt trips, Michael's calculated condescension. With each clip, his brow darkened. When it ended, he tapped his pen thoughtfully. "Have you considered that this behavior could constitute elder abuse? I'm 58, Mr. Patterson. Not elderly. Just tired of being treated like an ATM with feelings." He smiled faintly. "Fair enough. What exactly do you want to achieve?" "I want to disinherit all three of them. Permanently. No contest. No loopholes. Nothing they can twist." He nodded. "That's absolutely possible. New York law allows for full disinheritance if mental competency is proven and intent is clear. We'll need medical evaluations, cognitive testing, and documented justification." "And what about the money I've already given them?" He leaned back. "Gifts are legally considered gifts unless there are signed loan agreements. However," he paused, "there are other ways to apply pressure. Cease and desist letters for harassment, tax investigations, public records. Sometimes, embarrassment is a stronger motivator than court rulings. Tell me more about the tax implications." And for the next hour he did. He explained how the IRS views large unreported gifts, the audits that follow, the way sudden windfalls can trigger financial scrutiny. He described the exact storm they'd walked into, and I listened, not with rage, but with the cold satisfaction of someone watching a house of cards collapse. At the end I had one more request. "I want to start a foundation, something that uses my money for actual good. Something that helps kids who don't have families to exploit them." He raised an eyebrow. "Any cause in mind?" "Yes," I said. "Children aging out of foster care. Kids who are alone. Who are trying to build something with no safety net." He smiled again, this time with respect. "Excellent. That kind of personal, intentional charity will make your disinheritance airtight. No judge will question your motives." We scheduled the next steps, appointments, evaluations, notarized documents. And when I walked out of his office, I didn't feel scared. Felt free. The phone rang that evening. Lena's number. Picked up. "Mom," she began, already tense. "We need to talk." "What I did at Tommy's party," I said before she could continue, "was honest. For the first time in years, I was completely honest. You traumatized my son. You humiliated us in front of our friends. For what? Revenge. Because we asked you to help David. You didn't ask. You threatened. You told me I'd die alone. I never said that. Would you like to hear the recording?" The silence on the line stretched long and tight. I could hear her breathing, could almost hear her mind racing, calculating how much I had, how far I would go, and how deep her words were buried in that recording. "Mom, please," she finally said, her voice softened now, rehearsed. "Can we just start over? Sit down like adults and talk this through?" "No," I said plainly. "What do you mean no?" "I mean no, Elena. We cannot start over. We cannot work this out. I will not give David my apartment. I will not give anyone a single dollar more. Not now. Not ever again. But we're your children. Yes, I said slowly, you are. And you've spent 30 years showing me exactly what that means. I didn't wait for her response. Hung up. The voicemail started after that. David called, then Michael. Different voices, same script. Apologies that weren't apologies. Explanations that made them the victims. Excuses disguised as self-awareness. Promises that meant nothing because they had broken everyone that came before. I didn't answer. By Thursday, Rebecca had called off the engagement. By Friday, Elena had hired a lawyer to contest my mental competency. By Saturday, I was smiling for the first time in months. The war they started was finally in full swing, and I was fighting back. 6 months later, I sat in the same chair I always had, looking into the same camera. But I was not the same woman. The competency hearing was supposed to be Elena's checkmate. Her final move. She hired a specialist in elder law, believing that a sympathetic judge would look at me, a mother, a widow, a woman standing alone against her entire family, and declare me mentally unstable. What she didn't count on was how prepared I was. Dr. Sarah Brown, the psychiatrist Patterson recommended, had run me through every cognitive test in the book. Memory assessments, logical reasoning, emotional health evaluations. The results were clear. I wasn't just mentally sound. I was functioning above average for my age group. In court, Dr. Brown sat straight and confident. Your Honor, she said, Mrs. Thornfield shows no signs of cognitive decline, mental illness, or diminished capacity. Her decisions are logical, well-reasoned, and based on a consistent pattern of behavior from those she is choosing to disinherit. And then the rest was laid out. 30 years of financial records, every check, every forgotten loan, every favor never repaid. The recordings from Tommy's birthday, David's entitlement, Elena's manipulation, Michael's cold control. Elena's lawyer tried to twist it. Your Honor, this is just an extreme reaction to ordinary family disagreements. Patterson rose, quiet and composed. With all due respect, this isn't a disagreement. This is a case of 3 adult children extracting over $300,000 from their mother during their adult lives. None of it repaid. When she refused to give them her home, her only major asset, they threatened her, emotionally manipulated her, and publicly humiliated her. This isn't a family dispute. This is financial exploitation. The judge, a woman in her 60s, didn't even need to deliberate. Her face told the story before she spoke. Petition denied, she said flatly. Mrs. Thornfield has every right to dispose of her estate as she sees fit. The evidence presented shows that her decision is not only legal, it is wise. Elena's face crumbled. Her entire world shattered in that one sentence. But for me, that was only the legal victory. The real blow came in March. The IRS audit. See, they had never filed gift tax returns for the money I'd given them. Because they insisted, always, that it wasn't a gift. It was a loan. But loans require terms. Agreements, interest rates, documentation. They had none of that. And now they had penalties, back taxes, legal fees. Not enough to ruin them, but enough to leave a mark. David lost Rebecca just 3 days after the engagement that never became a wedding. Turns out, a woman who expected to marry into money didn't want to marry a man whose mother had publicly exposed him, and whose wedding venue deposit had gone to legal costs. He moved in with Elena for a while. Slept on the couch in the house I'd helped her buy. Both of them pretending it was just temporary. Michael made one attempt at reconciliation. He showed up unannounced on a rainy Tuesday. Looked thinner, older. Suit wrinkled like he'd slept in it. Mother, he said, we need to talk. Do we? I asked, stepping aside out of curiosity more than sympathy. He sat in the same armchair where Rebecca once offered me a guest room. His voice was low. Sandra left me. Said she couldn't handle the embarrassment. Her friends started asking questions about our family. He looked up, searching my face for something. comfort, understanding, maybe the old me. She took half of everything. The house, the savings. David and Elena won't speak to me. They blame me for the lawsuit. And you, he paused. You just sit here, watching us all fall apart. Yes, I said. I do. Don't you feel anything, he whispered. We're your children. We're suffering. Thought for a moment. Looked inside myself. I feel relief. He blinked. Relief. For 30 years I worried about you. Every bill. Every crisis. Every night. Now I know exactly who you are and what I mean to you. There's peace in that clarity. He stared for a long time. You've changed. No, I said. I've just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. He left. Quietly. I haven't seen him since. The Thornfield Foundation launched in September. I sold the apartment for just over $2 million. Combined with my retirement accounts and modest savings, I put every cent into something that mattered. Not to my children. Not to the people who thought I was supposed to keep giving until there was nothing left of me. But to the young people who never had what my children squandered. 12 young adults every year. That's what the foundation supports. Those aging out of foster care with no parents to manipulate them, no false promises, no guilt traps. Just a place to sleep, study, build something of their own. Clean start. A safety net where there was none. I kept just enough to buy a small one-bedroom apartment in Queens. Funny enough, almost identical to the ones my children had so eagerly circled in red ink months ago. Only this time I chose it myself. Furnished it myself. Made it mine. In October, Elena made one last attempt. She brought Tommy with her. He was 8 now, taller, thoughtful, eyes too old for his age. She stood back while he walked up to me slowly. Grandma Megan, he said, uncertainty flickering in his voice. Mom says you don't love us anymore. I knelt down level with his small, unsure face. Tommy, I said gently, I love you very much. But sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt people. And when that happens, there are consequences. But families forgive each other, he said, clearly repeating words that weren't his. Some families do, I replied. And some families learn that forgiveness without accountability isn't love. It's enabling. Behind him, Elena went pale. You'd really choose your pride over your grandson? She asked, her voice sharp and brittle. I'd choose my self-respect over your manipulation, I answered. Even when you try to use an 8-year-old as a weapon. They left after that. I knew it was the last time. And now, sitting here looking into this camera, I want people to understand something very clearly. I am not a victim in this story. I am not a sad, discarded mother or a tragic figure ruined by ungrateful children. I am a woman who spent 30 years being someone else's solution, and finally decided to be her own. My children lost everything because they tried to take everything. They ruined their relationships because they treated love like a transaction. They are alone because they confused entitlement with affection. I didn't break my family. I just stopped holding together something that was already shattered. The Thornfield Foundation continues its work. 12 lives a year. 12 fresh starts. 12 reminders that dignity matters more than blood. These young people don't have to choose between their self-worth and someone else's comfort. They get to have both. And me. I sleep better than I have in decades. I wake up with no one to answer to but myself. I am no longer a mother holding her breath, no longer the fallback plan, no longer the unspoken in case of emergency. I'm free. Some people will hear this and think I'm cruel. Some will say family should forgive anything. To them I ask, to what cost? And for how long? I gave them 30 years. I gave them $300,000. I gave them my youth, my energy, my unconditional love. They gave me ultimatums. The scales are balanced now.